guys and a microphone. Two bald guys and a microphone. Two bald guys and a microphone. Two bald guys and a microphone. Hello, we're back, and some people been wondering where we've been. It don't matter, cause right now it's happening. Same station, new day and time slot. Content forever is flowing, we won't stop. Providing remedies for chemical brain freeze. And teaching reboot, stressing you believe. We're two bald guys and a microphone. We're glad to be back, it feels good to be home.
Yes, we are two bald guys and a microphone right here at 21.6 Net, coming live from 216 Creator Studios. Big shout out to our friends over at Natural Therapy Wellness Center, www.mchenrymassage.com. If you are stressed during this holiday season, they can help you be blessed. Our good friends, JH Events and Flowers, big news for them, www.jheventsandflowers.com. They're getting a new store over in Fox Lake. They're going to have 2 locations. More information to come, and watch for that team to be on one of the shows coming up here probably within the next few days. But JH Events and Flowers expanding and doing great stuff again through the holidays. If you want to make it special, nothing is more special than fresh cut flowers. I'm telling you.
Smell them already.
I'm telling you. Yeah, absolutely great. But yes, and speaking of the holidays, hopefully you had a good Thanksgiving and were able to deal with relatives or managing the relatives. I mean, who's in control?
Well, this was an interesting Thanksgiving because we were supposed to be back in Nebraska by my brother.
Yeah.
He passed away in October. So we had no plans. We had breakfast with the kids. They came over and played a few games, and then we're just going to sit home and be quiet. But my son-in-law's mother changed that about 3:00. They called and said, "Hey, we got plenty of food and 2 extra chairs." So we wound up going over there, and it was a very nice, comfortable Thanksgiving. No drama, no emotions out of control. So it was a good experience.
Phil, good morning. Glad to have you with us, buddy.
Morning, Phil.
Thanks for joining. So
Dr.
it was
Jeff Wells says hi, by the way. He said the next time I saw you to say hi. I walked into a networking meeting, and I hadn't met this guy, and he's sitting there, and clearly a chiropractor. And I had on my hat from Phil, never give up. And I look down, he's got on one of the bracelets. So I go, "How do you know Phil Nasarino?" And he goes, "He's my good friend." And I said, "Yeah." So I just saw him yesterday, and he told me, Phil, to tell you hi and to give him a shout sometime.
That is small world.
After all,
everybody knows Phil. So this is the time of year where everybody is stressed beyond belief. There's several reasons for it, but one is that some of us may have some relatives that, well, might cause a little bit of drama, might be that, need the center of attention, might need whatever. And so a lot of our listeners out there don't look forward to the holidays, right? We just got back from a Thanksgiving. Now, our Thanksgiving is always very, very interesting over the last 26 years with my wife's family. What we do is we go to the wilderness resort in the Wisconsin Dells, and we rent 1 or 2 really big condos, and there's a lot of close familyness there, right? And it's always amazing to me that even though the 3 daughters or me and my 3 brothers, even though we were raised by the same parents, that the family dynamics and the way children are raised in each one of those families from siblings is severely different.
Yeah.
Right. And the dynamic with my wife's family. Now, this may surprise a lot of people. I go along to get along, and I sometimes will say things to poke the bear or see what a person's reaction is, something of that nature. But for the most part, if there's drama, I'll go watch something in a different room or whatever. I don't.
You don't play?
I don't play. Don't need that. My wife's younger daughter has a 9-year-old son, right?
My
And
wife's younger daughter.
my wife's younger sister.
Lucy's
sister.
a mom already.
Sorry, my wife's younger sister. There you go. That's what I meant, right?
Pretty sure I knew what you
Yeah.
meant.
She has a 9-year-old son and a 19-year-old daughter. The 9-year-old boy is 100% boy. I mean, he plays football and soccer. I mean, he's an active kid. He's a good kid, but a lot of energy. And there were a lot of times where I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, I'm glad I don't have young kids anymore. All right. But there's that, my youngest is 14. And she's good people. Carol says, I managed to shut down a conspiracy theorist relative by simply asking for motive of the groups responsible. January 6th. So Carol, what's Carol saying is somebody at the family gathering then was like talking about the quote unquote Capitol incident.
Still trying to sort out
of January 21. So we won't, so that the bots don't shut us down, we won't use the R word. We won't use the actual date. We'll just say the Capitol incident, because we don't want to throw out hate speech by asking motive of the groups responsible. So that's interesting, Carol. And what I'll say is that's tricky, right? That's like lighting a fuse and trying to put it out by licking your fingers and pinching it, right? Because you may have opened a can of oh my gosh, this person who has gone down several wormholes, perhaps. They may have had their guns, and ammunition loaded for that conversation.
They may have drank the whole 2 quarts of Kool-Aid.
Yeah, that's right.
Be careful.
That's right. Right. So is that how you see it, Coach? Is that how to manage relatives during the holidays? Is just punch them right in the face and go, all right, great.
Well,
what's the motive?
One of the things I learned a long time ago in the military and leadership is if someone's doing something that you're maybe not in total agreement with, take them off to the side, not in front of the group, and just have a light conversation. But to challenge in front of a group, they now have to they have to stand their ground, and it could be dangerous. Hopefully that worked out okay for you this time.
Right. It seems like it did. It seems like it did. And sometimes I enjoy the conversation and how their brain works. So Carol says he couldn't provide realistic motive for the groups that were not the MAGA. I followed his silence with an explanation of MAGA motives and behaviors leading up to that incident.
We have a lady where I work, and she came through just in a tither about, do you believe what they've done now? And I'm like, who's they and what have they done? Oh, they've passed a law. It's okay for illegal immigrants to become police officers. I'm like, it's okay for illegal immigrants to become police officers. Yeah. And she's just on fire about it.
Yeah.
So I look up the law, and then there was a law passed, but it was for legal immigrants, people who have gone through all the work to become a legal citizen of the United States, are now allowed to become police officers.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that makes sense. They'll be policing. They've done all the right things. I officiated a wedding for a gentleman who married a woman from Colombia not long ago, and I asked the wife through an interpreter, are you moving to America? Yes. Are you going to work? Yes. What type of work did you do in Colombia? She goes, I was a lawyer. Well, if this girl is a lawyer in Colombia, she's probably a pretty talented individual. There's some real talent out there. Giovanni was one of my best employees at the factory. And I sat down during an annual counseling with Giovanni, and he came from Guatemala. What'd you do in Guatemala? He goes, I was a first grade teacher. Man, I could see it. The guy was built for first grade kids.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just fun. And I'm like, why aren't you teaching here? Well, my education didn't cross over.
Yeah.
I said, let me put you in touch with somebody. And he quit a year later and became a first grade teacher because he was able to move all of the certifications because of the introduction. So, that whole world. And I said, and bless her heart, even after I said, legal immigrants, well, that's still not right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like what Carol did. And one of the things that you should always do to ease the stress, tension, anxiety of these family gatherings is to set realistic expectations.
Yeah.
So it sounds like Carol knew this person very well and knew that this was going to come up because they live in that space. So she set a realistic expectation for this conversation, and instead of just opinions battering back and forth, you came with, okay, hear me out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
and here's why.
And here's why. As hard as we wish, okay, the difficult family members. Now, this could be any reason for being difficult, whether it's addiction, whether it's stupidity, whether it's just that's who they are, whatever the case may be. And understand, when I say difficult, it doesn't, a difficult family member could be the 9-year-old who's been raised different than I raised my kids. Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To understand that.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't have to be necessarily an adult. But if you can go into this holiday season, and let's be honest, between now and Christmas, they're not going to change, or now in Hanukkah, or now in whatever it is that you celebrate, they aren't going to change. They're still going to be the same annoying, difficult, dramatic, whatever, unreliable, whatever person that they are, and there's already you've already set different expectations for each day or each group gathering. But what a lot of people don't do is they're just like, all right, man, we're going in there, right? Do you have a conversation with your significant other, your partner, that says, okay, listen, coach, we're going to be here. If this person comes up and starts jibber jabbering and being the idiot that they normally are, I need you to text me, call me, do something to bail me out. Or I want you to know that at that point, I'm getting up and going to the car. Right. So by setting expectations, it'll relieve a lot of that anxiety and stress on how to manage those relatives.
I know you've seen my talk on the algebra of relationships.
Yeah.
Where we really can't change another person. Now, if we're around the other person enough and we make the changes that are necessary, they may make changes based on our relationship and the positive changes I make in my life. But when we're only together with them one day out of the year, maybe 2 or 3 days out of the year, depending on what holidays we get together, to think that we can change them in that moment is
it's crazy.
It's not possible. So sometimes the best thing to do, and going back, we talked in the green room a little bit about a guest we had a number of years ago, Chuck Inman. Just take a breath and say a prayer. Lord, watch out for this guy, because somebody's going to smack him in the face, and let it not be me today.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So there's a lot of that. The other is to know your limits.
Yes.
Right. And communicate. So I'm too Irish for bland conversations, Shana says. Shana, good morning, says the level of cognitive dissonance and censorship makes it hard to claim superior truth. Certainly if your goal is to quote unquote shut down versus seeking to understand seems less than authentic.
Oh, we actually said cognitive dissonance on the show
there it
morning.
is. That's big. That's big. Yeah. So the question is, and the old saying is, you got to know which ditch to die in. Right. Going in, that Uncle Bob is going to be an idiot, because Uncle Bob's always been an idiot, whether he's a male chauvinist, whether he's a racist, whether he's drunk, you know what I mean?
Right.
Whatever the characteristic of Uncle Bob is, and all of the Uncle Bobs out there, I have one, God rest his soul. I'm just using that as an example. We all have that. But what we don't do is, step one is to know your audience. Yeah.
Step two is
That's right. So what we don't do, what a lot of families don't do, what a lot of couples don't do, is go, okay, listen, we're going to be here for 2 hours and get right. I feel bad, but my limit is 2 hours with this group of people, and then time to go, right? So I take a look at how do you set your own limit and communicate that to everybody, to say, okay, here's where I got to bounce.
Yeah, we have a thing. We got to go in 2 hours.
Well, and that's a hard thing, because a lot of people don't like to create stories. They don't like to be untruthful. And I don't know how to say, I can only take 2 hours of my own family. Right.
Yeah.
So here's what I need to do. Can you give me a timeline of what the day like? Okay. Yep. Hey, we're going to get together, and dinner is going to be served at 3. And okay, so here's the deal is, there's a lot going on. We're juggling a lot right now. And I only have space and time to be there between 1 and 4. Right. And that space might just be your mental space.
Yeah. Whatever it is.
Okay. But for whatever reason, grandma makes us feel, oh, well, I need help mashing the potatoes. Right. I'm the potato masher at Thanksgiving. Okay. I used to love potatoes. I still love them. I don't eat them. I mash the potatoes. So my daughters then go, Dad, not really your best mash job here. I go, oh, is there some lumps in there? They go, yeah. I go, okay, yours next year. I guess I'm too old to do it. What? Yep. Yours now.
Mine is gravy. I'm the gravy guy.
Congratulations. Right. So with that, you have to be able to go, okay, man, here's my space and here's my time, and I can give you this time. And your family, believe it or not, your family will absolutely appreciate you and love you for that, because if you're there longer than your time limit or what your limit is, they start going, well, I can see she's uncomfortable. I can see he's uncomfortable. My gosh, why was he such a jerk?
Yeah.
Right. And you feel it and they feel it. So if your time limit or your limit of being around these people is 3 hours, get out, right? Tag out at 3 hours and go, okay, good seeing everybody, but gotta go.
Yep. Shanna says the best family games to play are the ones that allow sanctioned aggression, like football, maybe a wicked game of spoons, followed by an early exit.
Spoons can get crazy.
My granddaughter had been seeing this guy Mikey for a while, and Mikey is spending his first holiday with us, and we're playing a game.
Yeah.
And I think it's catchphrase was the game, and you have a phrase and you try to get other people to say it.
Yeah.
Well, my wife's name is April, and Mikey was sitting right next to April, and he got a phrase and remember, first time he's spending a holiday with us, and he looks at the phrase and he looks at April and he goes, stupid, and points at my wife, and we're all like, what? Well, his phrase was April's fool. And when he realized what he had done, it was probably the best moment of holiday game playing ever.
And unfortunately,
but-
he's no longer around.
Oh, he married her.
Oh, there you
he's
go.
Stuck in the family. But Shana, well said. And that's true. Managed aggression. I like that thought. Where you can do something, allow
Want to
get some
get?
of
Yeah,
that
no
energy
kidding.
out.
No kidding. Want to get away? Might need a Snickers bar. So you know, the unfortunate thing is we all know what our limit is.
Mhm.
The unfortunate thing is we don't set that limit or stick to it, right? We say, yeah, I'm going to make up an excuse because, you know, my parents are in their 80s, and I want my kids to be around as much as possible, to get as much grandma and grandpa time. So I will suffer for the joy of my kids, right? Well, that's bad. That's bad.
It's not healthy,
Right.
Let's just put it that way.
For anybody, because then, believe it or not, you're modeling. That's a bad model for your children, right? If you don't want your Christmases, your holidays, whatever it is, the 4th of July, Halloween, whatever it is that you celebrate, if you don't want those to be uncomfortable, then you got to model the right things for your
Right.
kids, right?
Well, and that's the one thing that I feel truly blessed in our family, because when our kids and grandkids come over, there's not those moments in our house, which is it's positive. I mean, they came over for Thanksgiving morning breakfast at 8:30, and they stayed till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and they didn't want to go, and you know, it was we don't subscribe to the drama. It's not okay. We had one a number of years ago that an extended family member was at, where there was major drama, and we all came to the agreement that if you're not feeling right about what's going on here, it's okay to leave.
Listen,
but we're not going to fight.
Coach is the guy who's like, oh, look, Don's the only one who's marching in step. listen, they probably just go to your house to create drama because they're like, mom and dad are clueless. Let's just go and just
It's maybe I've got the rose-colored glasses on this morning, but in our younger years, my one brother-in-law and I would take wages on who was going to be the first to start the family drama, because it always happened.
Yeah.
And it was a $5 bet every holiday, no matter what. And one year, one of the relatives said something that spiked my emotions, and I was the one who got caught up in the drama.
Yeah.
And after about 3 or 4 minutes of this going on, I looked down, and Pete's sitting at the end of the table going, you lose by default.
That's awesome. That's right. It is inevitably going to happen, and everybody's, whether it's dealt with there at the time or whatever, my family gets along incredibly well, right? We do Christmas in July. The nieces and nephews are now married. Some have kids, but everybody tends to get along pretty well, right? There are always, I mean, it's just a lot of personalities and a lot of close space and a lot of close time, right? And it is so like when you go to my family, a lot of times there's sports. My brothers, my parents love watching sports on the television, right? Whatever it is, basketball, football, soccer. I mean,
lacrosse.
That doesn't matter. I am this guy. One of my jobs is a coach for sports. I'm not that guy who can sit in front of a TV and watch the 4 hours, 6 hours of football. It is not exciting to me, right? I get, right? I mean, I'm sitting there going, there's something better I can do with my time.
I'll record it and fast forward to the scoring moments.
Yeah, to the
Okay.
fourth quarter. When
Okay, he kicks a field goal with 13 seconds left. Let's go right.
Let's
to the fourth
watch
quarter
that.
and watch
That's
the
it.
winning field goal.
Carol says, what happens for me is I show up and then Padre puts a YouTube video on the TV intending to inform me about some show. Boy, yeah. Wow. And you know what? And that's kind of maybe where I like what you did, maybe deflect and diffuse, right? It's
Right.
like, you know what? Now's not the right time for this. I really, you know how I feel. Why would you want me to just get pissed off today? Right? Sometimes that's good.
She says I need to get a hold of the remote control and send some parental controls.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Why can't I get YouTube?
Right.
I just got YouTube yesterday.
Drew, good morning. Says
Hey,
coming
Drew.
from a Chi-Italian family, it's all drama. Grab your popcorn and enjoy the show. Yeah, but are you part of it? Right. So that again is kind of
Yeah.
controlling, managing the relatives during the holidays. Is it a spectator sport or are you in the ring? Right.
Well, exactly. And managing the relatives starts by managing yourself.
Yeah.
Right. You've got to be careful about not getting drawn in, because on that time was the only time that it really happened to me that way.
Yeah.
But that moment happened and I couldn't take it back.
Well, so
you got to manage yourself if you want to manage others.
yeah. I'm a fight ender by KO, straight up uppercut knockout. Right. So there was a conversation.
Remind me not to party with you, Carol.
There was a conversation. Drew says I hide. There was a conversation at the dinner table, and my father-in-law. There were a lot of one boy. It's a 9-year-old boy. Spencer's out east, and so there's women there. My girls, my 3 girls, and my son-in-law did not show up. He had surgery rotations, right? So he had to be on call. And so we're sitting there, and my niece has always been like a cross-country runner, not a very heavy young lady, right? Almost, and I'm not a doctor, I would say almost scarily thin, right? Where she's 19, she had her wisdom teeth pulled, she lost some weight, she got down below 100 pounds.
Wow.
Right. And my 14-year-old was like, dang, I weigh 140. Now my 14-year-old is, she's 5'9.5". She's a basketball player. She's very athletic. She doesn't, she's a healthy kid, right? She's not fat or obese, anything like that. And my father-in-law says, he says, man, women nowadays are just a lot bigger than what they used to be. And I go, he's sitting right next to me, and he's he's a very, very, he's in his 80s. He's a very, very brilliant chemical engineer. And I go, yeah, with that, because this is who I am without thinking, right? This is how I did not manage this well. And I go, yeah. And they're allowed out of the house nowadays too.
They can vote. I'm not sure if you saw that.
And I was like, my wife looked at me like, you mother. And as soon as it was that moment, as soon as it was on the tip of my tongue and out here, I was like, and so then some other people, laughed or whatever, my daughters, and I go, I'm sorry, go ahead. He goes, no, that's it. And I was like, oh, shit. And I was just like, oh. So afterwards, I tell my son, I said, it's what I do. This is what I do for a living. I'm sorry. And it just, he left it there. Right. And I was like, there was no digging out of that. It was bad. And so that is, I did not plan well. Right. but at the same time, I'm the dad. I coach women's basketball, and I tell these women every day, you're strong, you're beautiful, you're brilliant, and you can change the world. That's what kind of women you are. I tell them that every day. So it kind of threw me, you know.
I was emceeing the parade a number of years ago in McHenry, and I had been the parade MC for probably about 7 years. And when you MC the parade, you have a book,
Yeah.
and you got a page. You've done it with me, and you flip this page and you read about this float, and you flip this page, you read about that float. Well, I look up and it's a Tractors for Charity, and there's like nine tractors, so I get a chance to take a breath.
Yeah.
I know quite a few of the drivers of these tractors, and the fifth tractor coming through was a guy from Ringwood. I've known for quite a while, and I said, and here's the old workhorse of the farm, not Chad, but the International H, pulling one of our local politicians. Well, he had a manure spreader on the back of his tractor, and the mayor was sitting literally right here. And she stormed out of the booth. It was that raised booth that was over by the park.
Yeah.
And Kay Bates just kind of looked at me like, I can't believe you. It was 3 days of apology.
Another one of those, like, yeah.
A public apology in the newspaper, in the letters to the editor.
That's it. Scott, good morning, man. Good to have you here, Scott. When I went to college together, he says, it's nice to know you haven't changed yet. Yeah, no, that's
ready, fire, aim.
I've made a living off of that. But you know, I sit here and I am literally that guy who I try to disappear at family, right?
Mm.
I want to blend into the background.
Let me go mash the potatoes.
Right. Let me be in the kitchen. When I get together with my family or her family, it's how can I serve them? I always want, all right, I'll do the dishes. I don't even do the dishes at my house, right? It's 50-50 at my house because I do have strong, vibrant, brilliant women. I get the dishes dirty. They can clean them. It's 50-50, right? So
you're catching up with your father-in-law real quick.
So with that said, that's what I try to do, right? Is I try to be a servant when we get together with whether it's at my family, oh, hey, let me grill, let me go shovel the walk, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And that understanding who I am and how I love to see people's reactions and things, I would rather stay busy than sit there and get caught up with a lot of the gobbledygook, right? Now I'm also that guy that I could watch, the DIY network all day because I enjoy that, right? But my family's sports. I understand sports, right? But I'd much rather watch golf than football, right?
Well,
so I'm weird.
But my wife will be like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm watching. Why are you watching? I said, I'm trying to figure out what the coach is thinking. I'm not really watching.
That's what I do too. I watch
schemes.
I watch how the coaches handle. Yeah, that's exactly what I do.
Right?
It's weird.
So many years of coaching. Grandpa, I remember when mashed potatoes were made from potatoes.
That's right. It's like the Jetsons.
You still use real potatoes.
Yeah, we do. It's like the Jetsons. So for me, managing relatives during the holidays, I mean, who's in control is I allow them, right, to do whatever. The three big things, I guess, that I'd want to say is, number one is this. Number one is I think you need to remain an adult. There's a lot of times.
What does that mean?
Yeah. So there's a lot of times we get together with our parents. We get together with our brothers and sisters. A lot of times where we end up reverting back to childhood behaviors.
Default behaviors.
Yeah. Default behaviors. Right. We just slip into it. Oh, you're the baby. Oh, you're the oldest. Oh, you're the whatever. And now, that kind of tenacity comes out, that battle that, you were always dad's favorite, don't get emotional it is what it can mean too. Shayna says that, Are you familiar with HSP, highly sensitive traits? They aren't always introverts, but can get to overwhelm faster than most. Yes, yes. Of course, I don't play a psychologist on this show, but yeah, you have to. And I don't like to use the word trigger, but you have to understand what's going to set off somebody.
Well, I go back to it, and we'll just break down for a second. A number of years ago, Ron Hostry, rest his soul, brought in a good friend of his to the show, Chuck Inman. Chuck Inman had written a book called Chemical Brain Freeze.
Yep.
And you had gotten a copy of the book, and you read it. I've gotten a copy of the book, and I didn't read it. I was busy. I was doing like 800 things. As we're going through the show and I'm listening, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't read this book.
Yeah.
And after the show, I read the entire book that day. What's up, Luke? And it comes down to four things. And I go back to if everyone would just, there was a young lady in a political debate a few years ago, and she said something that made so much sense. If everybody had mowed their own lawn and stopped worrying about everybody else's lawn, we get along a lot better. And I think in managing the relatives and the emotions, one of the things we have to do first is manage our own emotions. I've kind of alluded to it in the past. We can't control the relatives, but we can do the best we can to set an example for them to follow, which is what you're talking about. Not that everybody's going to mash potatoes, because that would be a very boring dinner.
Well, when you say that about the lawn mowing, and I love to mow my lawn, it's very therapeutic, but I go back to the pioneers and I go, who was the first guy who says, I think I want short grass in my yard? And why?
That is a great, it was probably good old LJ Mower.
It could be. Yeah, good old LJ. You're out on the prairie. Was it whatever. Hi kids, how's the lovely weather up there? Yes, it is.
Sure. Hi Kent. No Tim. Hi Kent. Yeah, go ahead. I get it, Luke.
It says hi kids.
Oh, I thought he said Kent.
He probably did.
I apologize,
Under his
Luke.
breath.
I didn't
but yeah, hey, today is going to be sunny and 40. Going to be a great day. I know you missed the snow. Carol says it's also unfortunately true for me that some statements require response when spoken with an audience other than yourself. I have to speak up when someone says something to mislead my son, for example. I don't have to be emotional, but I do have to respond. So true.
One of the things that comes to my mind right away is having a conversation with your son about what happened. Hey, Uncle Bob, he does this kind of stuff all the time. Take it with a grain of salt. How do you really feel about what he said? And have the conversation with your son, because when you set the example of having a conflict with Uncle Bob in front of the family, that leads to the potential of more conflict versus just helping your son understand there are people in the world that are going to be like this. Uncle Bob's just a sample of all the idiots out there in the world. And again, we apologize to any Bobs. It's just,
well, and with your son is also kind of, tee up the ball, so to speak, but say, listen, I want you to understand the difference between an uncomfortable conversation, right, and an aggressive conversation. Now, there'll be some things said by Uncle Bob that could be a little uncomfortable, and I'm going to respond in a way that I'm going to make him tap out. Okay, and I know you haven't seen me do that, but
I'm going to win. I must win.
But again, it's about communicating. It's about getting through it. The other thing that I have to say is sometimes you got to take a look at who it is, and understand where they're coming from. Maybe they're lonely. Maybe they're just a piece of shit, right? But they're still a relative, right? And
it's all relative.
And for whatever reason, what I like to do as well is to say, all right, what am I supposed to learn in this situation? Right? Why does God have this bumbling idiot speaking these words right now? Right? And go, what am I supposed to be learning? Okay, maybe it's learning how to respond. Maybe it's learning how to lead your family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe it's I don't know, but that's what I try to say. What am I? Yeah, I'm in this position for growth, and if I'm uncomfortable, that means I'm growing through something. So how do I understand that? Right. Shana says, I encourage hearing people out and fostering personal discernment, how to think, not what to think. They need to learn to hold thoughts, even contrary to mine. Yes. The art of conversation is a lost art.
Well, and the ability to have a disagreement and still come out loving each other and friends.
Yeah.
And so many of us, with all the news today, and one of the reasons we don't do news on this station is we don't know what's real. We don't know what the news is. We know what the opinion of the newscaster is now. And I'm sure there probably is a war going on in Israel and the Ukraine. But a lot of the stuff that gets out there, and we buy into it. We hear it once on the news, and it's the gospel, and we start taking sides with it right away instead of really doing some fact checking and say, is this worth my time?
Yeah.
And energy, and can I make a difference in it? Right?
Yeah.
Why do we get involved in some of this rhetoric that's out there when we have no impact over it at all, and the only thing we're going to do is mess up our family?
Because we haven't figured out that we're the product that's being marketed.
Right.
Once we feel and understand that we're the product that's being marketed, then, listen, Ruffles potato chips and Lay's potato chips sit on the same shelf in perfect harmony. They're bitter enemies, right? I mean, they each want the majority share,
right,
but they sit on the same shelf in the grocery store in perfect harmony.
We have a fight between Ruffles and Lay's in aisle 4. Fight in aisle 4.
Right. I use understand, respect, and move forward.
Yep.
Okay. Let me understand where you're coming from. Let me give you the chance, and a lot of the conversational and conspiracy theorists that they want to argue, and they want to battle opinion. When you have one of those people, instead of calling BS right away, is you let them verbally vomit all over you, and then go, "Oh, that's interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Isn't that interesting?" Right? I don't believe a damn word you're saying, but isn't that interesting? You know what I mean? And then respect that that's their opinion. Respect that that's how they feel. Respect that they're passionate about it. Respect the individual, and then let's move forward. Right? Because where the battle comes from is that tension, that push and pull. And you and I are battling over the conspiracy or whatever because I think you're an idiot. Now you think I'm an idiot. Even though
two idiots make a genius.
Right. So understanding the dynamic, understanding that if I can understand you, I can understand that you're an idiot. Right. I don't have to call you that, but I can understand that you're one.
Right.
I can respect your thought on it because it obviously looks like you've put a lot of thought into it. And then we can move forward.
Well, perfect example. One of my relatives, who shall remain nameless, has been very big into using creatine.
Yeah.
During workouts. And I, as a coach in my background, experienced several athletes who, through the improper use of creatine, injured themselves in long-term injuries, not short-term injuries. Yeah. And so in trying to prove my point to him, I went out to find articles on creatine to substantiate my side of it. And I couldn't find anything scientifically to back my side of the argument. All I had was my opinion and my experience over the years. And so I had to back off a little bit, not really apologize for my stance, because I still know what I experienced with these athletes. But at the same time, I had no proof. I had no physical, concrete evidence I could hand him to say, you need to stop this.
Right.
So it when we do that, and someone is bringing that conspiracy theory or no, that's interesting. What are your sources? Where are you getting this information from? And opening the conversation and finding out where it's actually coming from. And maybe just having a conversation might diffuse the situation because it gives them some credibility,
Yeah.
but also might cause them to go out and look at where this information came from and realize that, hey, maybe it's not.
Yeah, I do it on a lot of shows. You've seen me do it on this show several times. It's like there'll be a comment or a question, and I'll just say, you know what? I don't have enough information on that topic to have a good conversation with you on it. So if you would allow me to do some research when we get back together, we can have that conversation.
Yeah.
Well, what, and that diffuses a lot of it. That sends a lot of people over like, wait, what did you just say? Yeah, here's what I said is I don't know enough about it to have a well thought out conversation with you. So allow me the time to figure this out. Right. And it throws it out. Yeah.
Shana says, I'm what you would call an avid conspiracy theorist. I have no desire to convince, but will forever struggle with closed-minded types, to each their own, but I don't dismiss things outright without forming a personal opinion. I love opinion and perspective if they belong to the person. And I like that last line, if they belong to the person. So many people are working off the opinion of someone else.
Well, the term conspiracy theorist was brought to you 60 years ago this week. 60 years ago this week by the New York Times.
Okay. Tell me more.
And if you understand what happened on the 22nd of this month in 60 years ago, you'll see that now there's the term conspiracy theorist came out. And this is when it came out. So to me, Shana, I am as well, right? And I don't know if it's conspiracy more than I need more facts. Okay. The quote unquote landing on the moon. In 1969, great year, by the way, in 1969, we put a team of astronauts on the moon. We haven't. I mean, why can't we do it this year? Right. Some of the pictures, some of the things that happened. Did we have the technology for the cameras? Right? Very interesting stuff to me. Very, very interesting, which I would beg to differ. Anyway, is it a conspiracy or is it me going, I don't know if that's the way it happened? Right? I don't know. So, yes, I've been to NASA. I love space exploration. I love, I've been down to Cape Canaveral. I've seen a moon rock, right? Very exciting to see a moon rock.
Ooh.
How do I know? I don't know that it's a moon
rock. I had popping
rock
rocks one time.
Right. So for me, there's a lot of unanswered questions. So for me, I kind of take a look at things and go, yeah, there might be more to that story than what was being told to us, right? At 60 years ago, I wasn't even alive 60 years ago, but I am fascinated with the events that happened 60 years ago and during this time. Fascinated. And I'm fascinated because I've been there. I've been in the same corner as the quote unquote shooter, one story up. And I'm like, there's no way. If I was the assassin, here's where I would have taken my shots, not where it quote unquote happened. Some street signs, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that we package up, right? And glass. And so I listen. Unfortunately, we lost a president 60 years ago.
A good one.
I believe so, right? And to me, that's the sad part. But I also think that it's very convenient for some people to be in very close to that proximity. I also think that there's some pictures on Air Force One of some people smiling, like, "Yeah, we did it." I also heard there's a great One Day in America on Netflix. It is a great, I think it's 3 or 4 part docu-series around the events, right? Not what happened, but really the days after, from the Secret Service people who were in charge of Mrs. Kennedy. I mean, it's pretty cool. And some of the things that were said make you go, oh, 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 right? So that's just me. So I will always have a conversation, and I want to see other people's thoughts too.
Yeah.
Are you accepting, what is reality? So, Shannon says, I'm fascinated just seeing the level of manipulation of information. My spidey sense tells me this isn't a new thing. Right. Hey, Ted, good morning. Glad to see you.
Ted, I've loved following some of your posts. Keep it up, man. I'm proud of you.
The idea of dealing with people who are quote unquote conspiracy theorists. I don't, why they're a conspiracy theorist until 3 months after, when it's proven true, right? And then they're no longer theorists. And then it all kind of goes away. But what I'm saying is, that you're going to run into these people. That your family get-togethers are going to have those people. Is there another stream of this show where these other comments are coming from?
Yeah, we're all over the place.
Oh yeah. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. So they're all over. If you are in the comments, yep, it's great. Now again, for me, how do you manage relatives during the holidays? Who's in control? If you allow them, if you allow them to dictate and ruin your day and ruin your holidays, create so much anxiety, then they're in control,
right?
And you're not in control of your life. This is why we're talking about this, is, set limitations, understand, deflect, diffuse. You don't have to get into the conversations, right? If you
don't have to be a piranha.
Right. So very, very important. It could be Carol to answer, we're on Uncle Pete in the Morning, we're on Two Bald Guys, we're on 216 Facebook, we're in a Facebook group, we're on YouTube, 216 the net, 216 Creator Studios, 216 Creator Studios on Twitch, 216.
You have to choose not to
Twitter.
Listen to us, to not listen to us.
That's right.
We're out there. So Shana says there are still whack jobs. We just can't change definitions. There's no such thing as a UFO now.
Oh no, there is. I see UFOs every night. A UFO is an unidentified flying object. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's a DC-10. I don't know if it's a 777. I can't see. All I see is blinking lights. So to me, that's an unidentified
You have not object. Identified it. That's correct.
Yeah. Right.
But it is amazing, all the alien stories that are out there right now. That's just like people have jumped on it.
Yeah. So the idea of what we are and who we are during the holidays is can set up the rest of your year for family get-togethers, can set up the rest of your year for not having anxiety, not living with shit, I shouldn't have said that,
right,
throughout the whole year, regret perhaps. But the idea during this time is how do you, what is it? To me, the holidays are a spectator sport. Okay.
And not just the football, right?
No, I love to watch family interactions. I love to watch people go, well, I have this or that, so I can't eat your green bean salad, instead of just going, I think green beans are gross, right? I can't eat green bean, mushroom and green bean and tater tots is gross. I don't, right? I don't care. I'm not going to eat it. Right? There's so many people. Like, oh, I got to eat it because my mother-in-law is going to be like, "Why didn't you eat my green bean salad?" I hate green beans. There you go. Right? Scott says men spend 7 hours a year hiding in the bathroom for peace and quiet. Absolutely.
A year? That's a day in some
Yeah,
cases.
it's hey, look at that, Pam. How are you? All the way from the UP. Love my cousins. They're the best, right?
You actually have family who watches this show?
Hey, once in a while. We're all family. The best way someone has politely end the combo with me was I can respect that and do. There you go. Right on. Yeah, I mean it's crazy. An on-air gag response is a regular bit now. I know it is. That's what I do. As a person who suffers from anxiety, the most important thing to getting through the holidays is to remember that their opinions and comments are theirs. Try not to let them get to you. Be yourself and don't bow down to the gossip. Easier said than done. Take a handful of gummies and ride it out. But
The special gummies.
But there comes a time, I think, in everybody's life where then you're like, you know what, I'm looking forward to it. I love being a spectator at family gatherings. In the summer we meet. My family always spends a week or a weekend up with Pam up in the UP. My whole family, just about my whole family was there. Brothers, all my brothers were there, but almost all the nieces and nephews. And I enjoy sitting and watching. I sit on the dock. I sit on the boat. I enjoy. It's a spectator sport for me. I love watching interactions. I love watching how people, I love the inside jokes that people have. Right? To me, that's a cool and fun thing for me to do. Right? Everybody's riddled with anxiety. Some call it nerves, some right. But it's the anxiety pieces. I've had several conversations and I've tried to mold the interaction of this coming get together, and that I know Bobby's not going to be happy. She's going to act like, oh, hey, great. Thanks for the lifesavers. It's going to be that way. Right. Ride it out. Yeah, that is sweatshirt worthy. That is sweatshirt worthy. The idea is though, is understanding that it's uncomfortable. Here's the idea that I'm going to put out there because we've got 3 minutes left. The way you feel about that conspiracy theorist, the way that you feel about Uncle Bob, them some bitches feel the same way about you. You understand what I'm saying? They're going, oh shit. Oh,
it's
shit.
Kent again. Doggone it.
I mean, this guy is going to show up and he's going to say something stupid. He always does. He's gonna try to avoid everything, and he's gonna try to help out all the time. I hate this guy. Makes me look bad. Whatever, right? This isn't just a one-way street. The people that you have this with, I can guarantee you feel the exact same way about the interaction with you coming. Right? Without a doubt. Because the old saying is, and what I tell my kids all the time is like, if you can't find the idiot in the room,
it's probably you.
Look in the mirror, right? I mean, right? If there's an odd one and you can't find that odd one.
I use that as part of, I was just up in Winnipeg 2 weeks ago and I brought that up. They say there's a jerk in every room, and if you can't find him, we're winding down, and I think we're going to carry this show on to. There's a lot more to be discussed.
Yeah, there's some more things that we can take a look at. Next week we'll probably air a recorded one. just because of some calendar issues. So it'll look live here on all the social media. You're welcome to put up comments, which we always appreciate, but we won't be able to respond to them live.
If we're not responding, it's because we don't like you. No, it's because it's because we're not here. We've got both of us have a conflict next week, so we'll pop up a recorded show. I'd like to really get into the art of self leadership, or the art of managing yourself in these situations, because that's when it breaks out, it's because somebody, maybe not you, but somebody did not learn how to hold their tongue, and wait it out.
And the other thing I want to do is I want to focus on you've lost a brother.
I did.
This is the first holiday without him, whether you spent time or just talked to him. There's emotions, there's feelings, there are different ways. When we say managing relatives during the holidays, today was kind of a toxic, right? But what about Uncle Tim, who lost his brother and is now depressed and sitting in the corner, and we're like, oh, so sorry.
Yeah.
Right. So we want to attack that too, because that's the holidays are some of the most depressing times of the year for a lot of those types of reasons. We want to make sure to cover that too in the next episode.
That is a plan, and we have got to that point. It's 9:00. So for Tim Stewart, Kent Jones, we are two bald guys and a microphone, but brought to you by the loving support of Natural Therapy Wellness Center and JH Flowers and Events. And it's time now to get off the bench and get back in the game. God bless. Make it a great day.
Two bald guys and a microphone. 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 Hello, we're back, and some people been wondering where we've been. It don't matter, cause right now it's happening. Same station, new day and time slot. Content forever is flowing, we won't stop. Providing remedies for chemical brain freeze. And teaching reboot, stressing you believe. We're two bald guys and a microphone. We're glad to be back, it feels good to be home.